So why you get anybody coming and say, oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, in case you are watching this part 2, because we had an interruption, my computer is being actively being hacked. That should tell you the importance of our communication to our people, and that should make you to take it more seriously. So my computer is still struggling to be hacked actively, but we have a very good spyware now that is being installed there. Maybe we'll still have to check it again. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing a presentation to set the record straight on the Ambazonian Cameroon negotiation in Canada that is being facilitated by the Canadian government. And I'm playing an audio from the Sakos camp who have become an opposition to this process to put the record straight. So I'll continue from there. In case you're watching the first part, this will become part 2. So let's continue to hear what the Sako guy was saying.
There. I went there under United Nations resolution, and the resolution was all from A to Z what they agreed in their in their meetings. So why you get anybody coming and say, "Oh, I'm an observer of United Nations"? No. The United Nations said to you, right? My personal representative in this matter is this representative in Congo or in Yaoundé or wherever. You're right. Thank you.
This is something that Diongote should bear.
So what the person of Sako was saying, that a United Nations representative in negotiation should take the negotiation, the agreement, and submit it to the United Nations to transform it into a United Nations resolution, and that is not correct. We have seen that in Tigray and Ethiopia, where they signed a treaty, a commitment to negotiation. In South Africa, it was never submitted to the United Nations to be transformed to a resolution, including that of Bongasville, a country which is also having her independence. It was not submitted to the United Nations to be transformed into a United Nations resolution. That is not how the United Nations work. The United Nations is a body that is being used by the nation member states as a tool for international diplomacy and international law and order. So treaties and commitment for negotiations are not translated into resolution. Resolutions' purposes are to regulate international community, and they are not. There is no obligation as said by him. But let us hear Mr. Pompos, Barrister So. Let's listen to him.
Or in Yaoundé or wherever. You're right. Thank you.
This is something that Diongote should bury his head in the sand, because it constituted low-level civil society people like Ellie Smith and the mayors and so on to go to Canada.
So this one, now the lie with tilapia they talk am. Fish mop, tilapia. Barrister saw it talk am. These are just complete lies. I can tell you, Ambazonians, because I was there. I was one of those delegates that was mandated by the governing council and sent there on your behalf, so that I can come at moments like this and tell you people the truth. Ellie Smith have nothing to do with this with these pre-talks that happened in Canada. Nothing to do with it. He was not there. I never heard anybody call his name. I don't know where Fru Dronso, who is a spokesperson of Sako, is getting his information, but these are just blatant lies. And why would anybody be saying something like that? Yeah, it was cut down. I don't know what happened, but I'm back online. Okay. Sorry, that was our technical staff. So these are just complete lies. They have even have a write-up that they have named the people that were there, mayors, all sorts of names. Let me show it to you. It's also been in circulation by the Sakos people. Why will people be lying, outright lying? This shows that they have no credibility. They have a long list. They have put this list out there, claiming that these are the people that were sent by so-called Diongote sent people in Canada, Ellie Smith and all those people. Ellie Smith was not there. Ellie Smith was not involved. Ellie Smith is not Cameroon government. He does not represent. We all know that Ellie Smith is the agency of Kadinatumi, working with the DDR Center, like the Catholic Church have been working with them. We have seen videos of him. So why would anybody who is from Ambazonia side will go into a room to negotiate with Ellie Smith and thinking that he's a negotiation with La Republic? Of course, that is not the case. He was not there. These guys are just lying. That is just lie. They have brought out lists on lists, long lists. And this is not the first time Sako and his people are lying. They came to Ambazonia people and lied that the United Nations have invited us. They have no credibility. They have no moral standing amongst the Ambazonian people. They are disgraced. They have brought us only confusion, scandal, and death for our people. But let us hear what he has to say.
The Prime Minister himself, I don't know whether if he signed a document given to those people, that would have committed the Cameroon government. Because as long as Paul Biya is still at the head, forget about the fact that he's senile.
So, this is Barrister Frudron. So, he says that he doesn't know whether Diongote signed a document that authorizes the people who were there to be able to commit. If you don't know, why do you talk about things that you don't know? Why do you talk about things that you don't know? First of all, you claim that Diongote had sent Eli Smith and some mayors there. And now you say that you just admitted that you don't know that he signed document. If you don't know whether he signed document, definitely you don't know who were there. So these are those people, as a spokesperson of Sako, these are those people who are liars, people who are driven by what I don't know. In the midst of death and killing of our people, nobody should be out there telling lies to our people. There's no need for lies. But like they say, thieves don't have shame. Con men who have embezzled money, disreputed. This is a disgrace for the lawyership. I'm ashamed to be a student of law when I have people like this who call themselves barrister coming to public and lie like that, blatantly. Let's listen.
Is dementia and all that, but he still signs decrees. If the Prime Minister was authorized to lead that delegation, it's only then that the Cameroon government will be committed. The Prime Minister stayed in Yaoundé, concocted a few mayors and Eli Smith, and sent them with no documentation, with no authority, with nothing, to go to Canada and discuss with who? He says.
So they have to understand, they have to accept the reality. What they are saying are just lies, they are all made up stories. Diongute, to have engaged, if he was or not, I'm not going to get into that, but what our people have to know that this is a proper delegation from the Cameroon government that represented the state of Cameroon at the highest level. I mean, at the highest level, represented the state of Cameroon. That goes beyond the office of Diongute. The delegation itself went beyond that level. That should tell Ambazonian people that me, Capo Daniel, your own countryman, the most credible Ambazonian activist, the most credible official speaking on behalf of the governing council, the biggest Ambazonian organization that have taken responsibility for our country and the prosecution of this war. I'm telling you that the Cameroon delegations, the officials, the offices went far beyond that. And that is why it reflects in the Canadian government statement that says that the Cameroon government approached them. It was the Cameroon government approached them. It was the Cameroon government that delegated people that were properly mandated and authorized to carry out state business. They were there on state business. Now you have Sako speaking on behalf of Ferdinand Gongo, a criminal who is responsible for the killing of our people. And Bias is as well is responsible. But at this stage, Ferdinand Gongo is a warmonger that is refusing proper negotiation, that have gone rogue, even abandoned the path of let me not even get into their politics because that is not our concern. But what Ambazonians should know is that the Cameroon state have committed and mandated Canada. Even after the statement made by Rene Sadi, which is just a statement put on social media and on their media, carrying his letterhead, it does not override authorized commitment mandated by the Cameroon state authority of their sovereign power that are beyond that of Rene Sadi. Rene Sadi is a small potatoes compared to the weight that Paul Biya's bring. Just like they are saying there that if Paul Biya mandate and authorize something, it is binding. The Canadian government will not be saying that it is binding without that document being binding. The only way Cameroon can undo what they have done will be through formal protocol, diplomatic protocol, to inform the Canadians through message from the authority that mandated the Cameroon delegate, or the authority that governs Cameroon, to inform them that they have withdrawn. That have not happened. Cameroon have committed to negotiate in Canada and have given Canada the mandate. Ambazonia have done the same. The Canadian government have informed the public and the international community that both sides still remain engaged, despite the message put out by Rene Sadi. The American ambassador have held a meeting to congratulate the Canadians for standing firm on this mandate that have been given to them by the Cameroon government, despite this infighting that is going on in Cameroon. Any normal person, any reasonable, sensible person will understand that Rene Sadi speaks for Ferdinand Gongo, a faction that is the Fifth Republic of France. We all know that the French government puts in puppets like Paul Biya, who have the mandate to govern the country, but they use power that is beyond him to get their way around things. And now that power have gone in the wrong hands. It is now swaying towards the way of the Russian state, which is an enemy state, or a conflicting state with the French government. The Cameroon state is divided. The center cannot hold. That message by Rene Sadi is only an indication of infighting and a divided government. But the authority, the final authority of that country, relies not with Ferdinand Gongo, Atanganji Paul, and Rook people like Rene Sadi. It relies with Paul Biya, who is their president. And that authority have engaged and given Canada the mandate. It can change tomorrow, but the communication from Rene Sadi does not reflect any credible Cameroon government position, because the Cameroon government position has given a mandate that has been signed. They have committed themselves internationally in front of the United Nations. Rene Sadi, what he did was a lie. It is not credible. It is not binding. Obviously, it is fake document. It does not carry power. Those are illegal communication that does not meet up with international protocol. For a country to withdraw from a negotiation process that it has committed, it does so through official means, not through newspaper announcement, not through declaration made on radio stations. They do so through their diplomatic communication. Canada have a diplomatic communication channel with Cameroon. They have diplomatic relationship in Yaoundé. If the Canadian government is saying that Cameroon remains committed, it's because Cameroon remains committed. And to the power mongers who are both on Ambazonian side and in La Republic side fighting for people to continue to die, they will be in the wrong part of history. They will be in the wrong part of history. So let's just finish what he has.
Samuel Komisako had a more than 3 hours telephone call with the Canadian ambassador in Yaoundé. He asked him one question: will the Cameroon government be present in these talks in Canada? The answer was no. If the Cameroon government is not going to be there, why are you calling me and asking me to join? John.
So this is the spokesperson of SACO saying that the Canadian government contacted SACO through the ambassador in Yaoundé to talk to SACO for over 3 hours, according to what they are saying. And in that communication, SACO asked him if the Cameroon government is going to be there, and he said no. That is why SACO did not go there. Is what they are saying true? Obviously, it's not true, because putting the word of SACO against the one of Canadian ambassador, who are you going to believe? Do you think the Canadian ambassador will come and meet SACO and blatantly lie to him over telephone call that the Cameroon government is not going to be there, when the Canadian foreign minister is clearly saying that Cameroon government is there? No, that is not true. Did the Canadian engage with SACO? Yes, they engage with all stakeholders. Engagement does not mean invitation. They engage with all stakeholders to inquire, to talk to them, do research work and all those stuff. But was Sako invited? Definitely no. Definitely no. That is why he was not there. Because only at pre-talks, only consequential movements that are properly constituted are invited. These are the leading movements that are invited to lead the negotiation. Remember, it is Ambazonia and Cameroon, represented by the Cameroon government and the authorities and the consequential movement of Ambazonia. Sako's movement is considered on paper, it's just on paper. Sako is just on paper. It's not a properly constituted body by Ambazonians. It is just him declaring himself a president, and the Canadians know better. You can fool a bunch of Ambazonians on your WhatsApp group, on your TV channel, by playing your con man, which you are, calling yourself president. It does not translate internationally. Sako Ekome is not considered consequential enough. That is why he was not invited. If Sako was invited, the truth, he could have been told the truth. The fact that he is making up stories about being called for 3 hours by the ambassador of Canada to La République du Cameroon can tell you the type of engagement they had with him. But definitely, they will not call him to lie. What if they told him the truth and he doesn't come? Probably it's because he has taken money from Cameroon, from people like the Eko and those who are working with Ferdinand Gogo, because we know that these are the people who are against what is happening. These are the people who are just there to milk people for money, which is something which is likely not going to be effective. Ambazonia have been recognized internationally by the organization that were represented there. Those organizations going there to represent our country is an indication of their international recognition. Those who are not there does not mean that they are not stakeholders. We have a conference that is coming up in April where we expect to bring in everybody. And Chris Anu himself has indicated that he has endorsed this process. And I'll get to that later. But let us finish what they have to say here.
They put Eli Smith and his renegade mayors and whoever. Eli Smith is not a member of government. He doesn't even work for government. And the others are when they call themselves mayor who were not elected. Anyway, that's a different story. But mayors don't represent the government.
So it is true, mayor don't represent the government. It is true, Eli Smith does not work for Cameroon government. We all know he worked for the AGC. But they also work with the Cameroon, with the DDR Center, which is a propaganda, a military attaché to the Cameroon military. But anyway, he was not there. The mayor was not there. So how can somebody who do not even know the people who were there, you don't even have intelligence or people you can talk to somebody who knows somebody. If you are so cut off from reality and from consequential people, then you have no voice to say. You have nothing to say. So if you don't even know the people who were there and you are lying about people who were there, how can you be a source of information about what is happening? So fellow Ambazonians, these are just people who are on social media making noise. These are all corrupt individuals who have no shame, no dignity at all, no credibility at all. And they should be kept where they are, which is at the backyard. But I would want to still move you forward. But before I go, I will play you an excerpt of Sako's own presentation of what he considered Cameroon engagement. Because now Ambazonia have Cameroon as a government, as a country representing their country, which have committed to negotiation. That is already happened. That is already what has happened. Even if it stops tomorrow, that is what has already been established. What do you think somebody like Sako making all these very, very seemingly intelligent points? What do you think will be his own? Will that not be a standard to look back to what he had considered previously as Cameroon commitment? That is just exactly what I want us to do before we move forward. So now, Sako who have been engaged in a process, in an initiative, we call it initiative because it wasn't a process yet, an initiative with the Switzerland had this to say about that initiative. Remember, the Switzerland just contacted the Ambazonian side. They said that Cameroon, they spoke to Cameroon in Cameroon verbally. And this is what Sako had to say to our people, so that you can measure that up with what he is saying to you.
The process is alive because La République has committed to be on the table.
So this is Sako talking about a commitment of La République du Cameroun on the negotiation table during the Swiss initiative. At that moment, Cameroon had not even sent anybody to meet them on a negotiation table or pre-talks, let alone having a face-to-face engagement with them in a pre-talks negotiation, even with the Swiss HD. Never. So if Sako would consider the Swiss initiative as a Cameroon committed, why will he now be saying that this one that the Cameroon government have actually come there and engaged in a process with the presence of the United Nations and signed document committing themselves to negotiation that it is not negotiation? So these are just liars. Let me play it again, let you hear.
Because La République has committed to be on the table. That's it. If the day La République will cease to commit to be on the table, there's
So he was saying that the day La République commits withdrawal from being on the table, that day La République, there will be no process. Cameroon have told him that there is no process there. So why should somebody like this be raising these questions? Why did he not raise those questions to himself when he was saying that Cameroon have committed? But now he wants to raise it for Ambazonia. You can't have it both ways. And today we have people like Capo Daniel, the Never Again generation. You have organizations like the nationalist movements who are going to challenge you and let our people know the truth. So we are going to set the record straight. Now, these are his people who were all engaged. Chris Anu was speaking, was a spokesperson of Sako. Bo Herbert was of Maurice. He was also in part of that negotiation, negotiation initiative by the Swiss. This is what they had to say.
Committed.
Well, first, let me say the last part. La République du Cameroun is not committed to the process. They are not.
Swiss ceases to be a mediator. Because a mediator is one who is bringing two willing parties together to dialogue and negotiate. If one party ceases to be willing, when one party withdraws its commitment, from that day you cease to be a mediator. So to say that Swiss mediator does not exist is nonsense. They are mediators, they are not negotiators.
I know one of the questions that is being asked out there is La République committed? Have they shown any sign of commitment to the Swiss mediation? What would you say to those asking this question?
Yes, they have shown a sign of commitment.
La République du Cameroun is not committed to the process.
So that was Sako claiming that La République du Cameroun was committed when Cameroon have not even met them. Now, the state of Cameroon have sent delegations that have been properly authorized and mandated to engage in pre-talks. They came in there, sat in an internationally mediated pre-talks, facilitated by the Canadians in the presence of the United Nations, and committed with signature, committing the state of Cameroon to a negotiation process with Ambazonia. How would somebody who would call this conversation about an initiative a commitment and not recognize a signature commitment by the state of Cameroon? It is only somebody who is not credible, somebody who is not honest, somebody who is obviously a liar, and somebody who people shouldn't be paying attention to. Anyway, I want us to go now to Chris Anu. He has also made certain statements, and I want to first of all acknowledge.
After the Canadians put.
I want to first of all acknowledge that Chris Anu have endorsed the Ambazonian Cameroon Canada-led negotiation process. He has endorsed it, and I welcome that. That is the right thing to do. But his people have to understand in perspective, because there are a lot of our patriots who are worried that somebody who had received money from the Cameroon government through the board of directors of CDC, which includes people like Lele Afrique and Okala Bilai, somebody who is on Cameroon payroll, who have admitted by himself that he is on Cameroon payroll to come to a negotiation table to represent ourselves. Somebody who have been fired by his organization, who claimed to be a president. If somebody like this with this level of credibility should infiltrate the negotiation, people are really worried. But I want to assure our people that the Ambazonian Governing Council and the other leading movement have already set in place a framework for negotiation together with the Canadians and the President of the United Nations that have been agreed to, that we can protect, and we are very confident. That is why it is now public, and that is why we can now bring in everybody of every tribes and every stripes in Ambazonia to come in and join. It is going to be a people's thing. Of course, every initiative is led. The leading bloc is going to continue to lead it to safeguard the integrity and the interests of our people. So worry not. But anyway, let us listen to Christopher Ano.
A statement indicating their intention to host the peace process between La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia.
So I'll take them slowly, and I'll talk also for pidgin so that make our people hear. So Chris Ano talk say Canada either announced their intention for host peace talks between Ambazonia and La République. I want to put them more correctly. The Canadian government, their announcement, it was an announcement for commitment and acceptance of mandate. So what the Canadians have announced, which way the Canadian government either announced them and say they don't accept mandate where Cameroon government don't give them, and where Ambazonian representatives them, they don't give them for organized negotiation after both sides they don't forget pre-talks. So now the announcement that we can make them. Canada never announced now say it one can make peace. Of course, that peace, this the negotiation, it be geared towards bringing justice and lasting peace for a comprehensive solution that will address the root cause through an international mediation with the presence of the United Nations. Ambazonian territory was identified properly, designating us as the former British Southern Cameroon. That does not mean that we are not currently that former territory. That is just a designation that describes that territory. Of course, right now we are Ambazonia because that is how countries are named. They are named by indigenous people, the name that they choose for themselves. And because our country name Ambazonia have been established within ourselves as self-determination, but not yet recognized as a sovereign appellation to our country, we are designated as the people of the former British Southern Cameroon, but we are called Ambazonia. That is why the word formal is used. So we should be clear. What Canada announced is that Cameroon and Ambazonia have committed through an agreement that commits both territory to a negotiation process to address the root causes and provide a comprehensive solution for justice and peace. That mandate, that document announcement also has mandated Canada to facilitate that process. Let us continue.
Cameroon put out a statement, ladies and gentlemen, rejecting, but not just rejecting, indicating their intention to host the peace process between La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia.
So wait to wait Chris Ano the talk it be very important we wanna hear. It's a Canada that announced a commitment, say Cameroon and Ambazonia, they don't commit for negotiate. This one na a recognition, say they group them, the block, leading block where they don't engage in this process, na them, they represent Ambazonia internationally. Not the Chris Ano and the Sako where they claim say them being a government. But the leading blocks that have engaged with the international community and recognized to represent Ambazonia internationally in this process are the people who are representing our states and are recognized as such. This country, this process is international, have followed protocol. You are dealing with Canada. They have the best intelligence, they have done their homework, and they have chosen to go with these properly constituted bodies of Ambazonian most consequential groups. And the fact that they are representing Ambazonia should indicate to our people that these are the movements that are credible, that can be credibly relied upon, and that are recognized as such to represent our country, Ambazonia. Let's continue.
Cameroon put out a statement, ladies and gentlemen, rejecting, but not just rejecting, indicating they have never contracted with anybody to negotiate between them and Ambazonia.
So, Chris Ano talks say, shortly after the announcement by Canada and Ambazonia, or middle one, the Cameroon government, they can make announcements, say they never contact anybody, me negotiate for them. I want to make our people to understand, it is not the Cameroon government that made the announcement that Rene Sadi made. It was Rene Sadi himself who made that announcement by himself. It's not the Cameroon government, and we don't recognize it as the Cameroon government. Neither does the international community, because the American ambassador, who is in Yaoundé, made a public statement the next day to inform the people that the American government stands with Canada for the commitment that was made by the Cameroon government. That is to show you that they don't recognize that communique as a representative of the Cameroon government. Rene Sadi and the Ferdinand Gongo have also taken upon themselves to go to the newspaper again and take a big newspaper announcement. That is why I'm doing this show today anyway, because we have seen that they are now engaged in blackmail of the Cameroon government through their media outlets to give misinformation that the Cameroon government have not given any mandate to a foreign country to mediate, to facilitate negotiation. The Cameroon government have given mandate to Canada officially. The Cameroon government have not withdrawn that mandate. This should be clear. The mandate stands. It is recognized by the international community as a whole. And if Cameroon decides to withdraw it tomorrow, they know how to do it, and their president will do it. But it stands, and that is what is a reality, setting the record to keep our people straight and honest.
What went on? What happened? When we first received briefings and invitations for the Canadian pre-talks, we were made to understand that the initiative was the effort of Cameroon's Prime Minister Dion Ngute after.
So, Chris Ano, he talk say the time where he be receive invitation for attend these pre-talks, they be tell you say na Dion Ngute he own he initiative. This one also na fat lie. The Canadian government, nobody should believe that after the Canadian foreign minister have announced that the Cameroon government was engaged, that there is a possibility that the Canadian government or their ambassador came to Chris Ano and lied to him. Because Chris Ano and Sako, they are claiming that the Canadian ambassador came out to lie to them, that this was a Dangote thing, it did not involve Cameroon. That is not true. That is just not believable. So Chris Ano and Sako are the ones who are making up stories about being invited. In our meeting in Cambodia, a letter sent by Chris Ano to the Canadian government was revealed there. When Chris Ano was writing to them, asking them that he wants to be part of that process, and asking them that he is suggesting that the Canada should force Cameroon to carry out a referendum for Ambazonians to decide their future, in which we had an argument, a heated argument, and I told Chris Ano that if we as Ambazonians, we ask for referendum, we are undermining our stance to challenge Cameroon's sovereignty. So we can't ask for referendum, but Cameroon can propose referendum, but we can't ask referendum as a sovereign people fighting for our independence. So why would Chris Ano be writing to Canada government asking them to become part and making proposition when they have invited him and he refused to join? So the truth of the matter is that Chris Ano was not invited because he is not consequential. The international community does not consider Chris Ano and Sako because they have good intelligence. They know that these are just people who are on paper. They have no command and control, or even if they do, they are not consequential enough or properly constituted enough to have the prestige or the credibility to represent Ambazonia in such high-level international engagement. So he is definitely lying that he had an invitation and that the Canadians talked to him and whatsoever. They talk to everybody anyway, but not in the way that they are saying. But let's listen to what he has to say.
Consultations, approval, and firm backing of Mr. Paul Biya, their president.
So anyway, let me let you people know. You know, Ambazonians are good at writing letters. Once the news went out that there was something going on in Canada, all Ambazonian group have written letters there, all type of things, calling themselves that, proving themselves this and that. But at this level, this is where all those propaganda on social media ends. And only credible, properly constituted bodies were there to represent our countries, and the leading blocks are the organizations that are recognized to be credible enough, consequential enough, dignified enough to represent our state at that level. So let's continue to hear what he has to say.
After consultations, approval, and firm backing of Mr. Paul Biya, their president, Mr. Biya and PM Dion Ngute did not only agree on the mission, the Canadian mission, both equally agreed on who will facilitate the mission. Canada was going to be the country to make it to happen.
So this is Chris Ano now telling the Ambazonian people that Paul Biya and Dion Ngute consulted. Paul Biya authorized Dion Ngute. In October, I have played that before. I will not waste your time to do that again. Chris Ano was saying that this initiative had nothing to do with Paul Biya. It was just Dion Ngute doing his thing, playing his game. So today, because he has endorsed the process, he is now coming to say that Dion Ngute had authorization and consultation with Paul Biya. You can't just be throwing garbage to our people. You cannot be saying one thing today and another thing tomorrow based on what you want to do. You must follow facts. And our people must understand this about this man. That people like this who lie to you every day, they don't respect you. They don't mean good for you. Nobody who is fighting for who thinks that you are worthy of anything will be lying to you blatantly like this, day after day, confusing you. These are not people working for Ambazonia's interests. Like he has said, he is somebody who have received money from Cameroon for CDC. Caused the death of so many Ambazonians. So you should know him for what he is. He's a liar. So let us continue anyway.
The reason why Cameroon pulled out of the Swiss process. ABS was told that.
So now you are hearing him. He's not calling himself anymore president. This is supposed to be a Mr. President. Oh, we don't suffer. Now he's talking about the ABS because he's a businessman trying to do his con thing here and there. He relies on this struggle. He have no job. He has never been having a job before this struggle. He couldn't pay flight or have food in Nigeria when I first met him. So that is why we have to understand him the way he is. There will be corn people. My brothers, Jesus be say the wheat and the corn will grow together until the harvest day where you will separate the two. So we will have this type of things amongst us. Anyway, he has endorsed the process, but we have to set the record straight. So let's go ahead.
Both Mr. Paul Biya and his Prime Minister Dion Ngute were agreed that a military solution to the conflict is nowhere in sight, that Cameroon was running out of funding, and that people are being killed in the thousands. Biya and Mr. Dion Ngute agreed that Ngute carry out consultations with the Canadian government to take up the initiative. Canada accepted.
So Chris Arnold is say that Cameroon, they don't run out of money, all those things. Those are true. But you don't need to actually, when you are engaged in negotiation, ladies and gentlemen, we have built capacity. We have gone through courses and be trained by the governing council and equipped for these things. When you are in this type of stage, there are things that you don't come and say. Not everything has to be said on social media. The discipline with which we handle that process should have set a standard for Ambazonia. You cannot engage at this level when every little things you are telling, you're putting on social media. I was there. I have meetings upon meetings on behalf of the Ambazonian people, mandated and sent by the president of the governing council, Dr. Chuayaba. We have not done any show about it. I've not talked about it. I've not shared any picture about it. You have to protect the interest and integrity of people you meet. or people who talk to you at this level. There are things you say and there are things you don't say. Telling people that the ambassador of America call you or the ambassador of Canada call you might sound good for Ambazonia, may score you small points on social media, but will end up crippling the Ambazonia government because people like that don't even have their conversation mentioned. These are people who have top level clearance, deal with serious things. Ambazonia is serious at a global scale. So we have to have respectable people, people with credibility, people who understand the stakes, people who can handle responsibility and put the people's Ambazonian dignity and their worth ahead. And their conduct should reflect that. Chris Arnold definitely does not make the cut. So let's listen anyway.
Carried out consultations with Ambazonian stakeholders and summoned the controversial pre-talks.
So yeah, this is true. When the Canadian government was contacted by the Cameroon government, the Canadian government did due diligence to carry out their own investigation and engage all stakeholders. They also inject firms, professional firms who have mastered the cause of Ambazonia to help them to be informed about who is doing what in Ambazonia. That is why the Canadian government choose the leading blocs that are currently engaged on behalf of our country. Like Chris Arnold have admitted, this commitment is between Ambazonia and Cameroon, and those who represent Ambazonia are the competent people who have that internationally recognition and that internationally respect and credibility to be the most consequential to represent our country. And he is not one of them. So let's continue.
The pre-talks led to the announcement last week of a formal negotiation process by the Canadian Foreign Minister. We came out and endorsed the process.
So I want this to be clear. Pre-talks and negotiation process, they are part and parcel of the same thing. They are just different stages. You have pre-talks that designs the negotiation process or that creates a framework for a negotiation process. I know that he wants the impression like we are getting into something new. No, it is a continuation. It's one and the same thing. It's negotiation. It's just that each of them have different bearings, different ramification, and different consequence in the international stage. So you should be clear about that.
Promising, unlike in the past, to engage the process. Mr. Dion Ngute, we are told, has audience with Paul Biya every Friday to brief him on the state of the government, that is, the Cameroon government. But because of the importance of the Canadian statement, Dion Ngute didn't want to wait till Friday to meet with Paul Biya. This was a matter of emergency, urgency. And so the meeting in his office on Monday, last Monday, had prepared a communication to the presidency on how he plans to communicate the Canadian process. And then he forwarded it by courier. He forwarded the communication to the presidency by courier. That was again on Monday. After Paul Biya or the president receives and approves of the communication plan from the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister, Dion Ngute, was then to hold a meeting with Rene Emmanuel Sadi, the communication minister, after which Sadi will then go out to formally acknowledge the Canadian process. But little did Dion Ngute know, he was acting all alone, on his own. Sources in Yaoundé have told ABS that once at the presidency, the communication from the PM was intercepted by presidential staff loyal to Ferdinand Ngo.
Oh, Ambazonia will suffer. This is the greatest comedy I've ever seen. These people take Ambazonians to be fool. When I hear, I talk way to Chris Arnold and talk. Chris Arnold talk say, Dion Ngute the ever go meet up Paul Biya every Friday for give you briefing. But because this announcement will be very, very urgent with the Canadian government in the make up, Dion Ngute talk say no, Migi Shidong, he gather a meeting, prepare himself on Monday. He write letter for Paul Biya for send and for he say, Nasa Kamarongo announce their own. As he take that letter, he give na for courier. That means he give for postman. People they go deliver government letter. Them. The postman run, go give for Paul Biya. Then he they go for day, go meet up Paul Biya. As then Shidong, Paul Biya approve him, say yes, na say it could happen. As then carry that message now the one go, where Diongote begin for go meet up Rene Sadi, me then get meeting now for talk how they will announce him. You know, be no say some one presidential guard in the work from Gongo. He just catch that postman where he go that letter. Take that letter. Wrong go time for inside Ferdinand Gongo office. Then Gongo now go call meeting of the vampires. Chai! People they know how to lie. When I hear how lie, it happen. So if what is Cristiano they talk him, either even think and say what people they think. If you talk say Diongote need for go meet up Paul Biya because it be very urgent. Why Diongote need for still take that letter, give him for Korea, make Korea carry around for go give Paul Biya before he come for back? That one na for do tell when I say a lie. Diongote sister for wrong go meet up Paul Biya because it be important. Let's talk say Diongote send that letter me go before so that me Paul Biya read them before you want to meet up me. He go meet up and stay, he can meet up for the then she don't then talk. Paul Biya approve something already, he sign up. Then the Diongote talk say he go meet up Rene Sadi. Instead of go meet up Rene Sadi with the document, he give him again for some postman. Inside that presidency, some other presidential guard do come out catchy. Since the letter, then they go to now the Ngole now they go okay their meeting now. They write that letter now where Rene Sadi read them for newspaper. What a lie, what a joke. What people then deserve better. You cannot be giving them garbage. That's why we are here. Light have to come and drive away darkness so that people should know the truth. You know, it's just lying. Anyway, let's just conclude what he said.
Furious that the Prime Minister Ngute was endorsing the Canadian process. Ngo confiscated the communication, the courier.
So, Ferdinand Gongo somehow, according to Cristiano, he be the vex. Say Prime Minister they endorse the thing. How can the Prime Minister be endorsing something that you said that the Prime Minister was running? If he was the one running, and according to you, Paul Biya approved it, why would Gongo not be angry with Paul Biya and he will agree that Diongote have endorsed something? It doesn't make sense because he's just a lying. He's just a lie. But it's important that we come and shed light on this thing and set the record straight. He's just lying, you know.
Then hastily summoned a meeting with Rene Sadi, Paul Atanganji, Felix Mbayu, and a few others, from which they crafted or drafted the communication that was read on radio and television in Cameroon, debunking the existence of the Canadian process.
Was struggled and turn that thing way it done been a social media experiment for people that really quite should don't like Cristiano where they no get jobless people, but can became make story them for sell them for social media and for open TV channel. All that thing where Cristiano talk and so, even though it go sound well, it look emanating, it be attracted for people for entertainment. People should not take it seriously. They are all lies. They are all made up story. The good thing is that the man have endorsed the process. Let him come and support the initiative and support the leaders if he is genuine. Let him show that the money he received has wear out and he's now come to his senses. But we will not allow our public space to be polluted with lies. There are consequences because the war is all about the hearts and minds of our people. Nothing is established in lies. Lies are short terms. You will not benefit you if you were told a lie. That is why Dr. Chuayawa always tell our people it's not a walk in the park. And that's why, even though we are part of that leading coalition or leading bloc that have led our country in this diplomatic victory and this great historic progress, we are still cautious about it. And we are still telling our people that commitment to negotiate is a big victory and have serious ramification. But it also does not mean that the negotiation itself will go on successfully. Countries commit for negotiation and sometimes they fail. But that process is an irreversible process because you have triggered an international engagement that will haunt you, haunt every party who is irresponsible. So there are consequences of this and there are ramifications for this. Paul Biya have brought his country to this position because that is what is required. That is the right thing to do. And they have to negotiate. They will negotiate. It is the right thing to do. Anybody that dies again in this war is as a result of the power mongers that have failed to seize this historic opportunity, to cease hostility, withdraw their forces, and make sure that the people in Ambazonia can be relieved from this humanitarian crisis, while we move this war for our liberation away from the battlefield that causes human life, wasting African life, African killing Africans, and negotiate. Ambazonians are ready for negotiations. We are always going to be ready. At the same time, we are not going to be naive. We are going to fight until we have our freedom, and we will never, never give up. We will never, never relent. We will continue to fight. Ambazonians must know that this success have not come across because of a mistake. Actions on the ground have been coordinated and made possible by our leader inspiring our youth, educating our youth, strengthening them and providing them arms, and building the capacity. Even just boys raising up arms is not enough to win a war. You need people that work within organizations that are properly constituted with checks and balance that protects their interests, with command structure that makes sure our boys do not turn against our people and become rejected, and then our people stay back in prison in La Republique du Cameroon. That is why I serve this prestigious organization, the Ambazonia Governing Council, and Dr. Chuayaba, who is the president there, because he's an honest, hardworking person, selfless individual who is here for nothing but Ambazonian freedom. That is why we are nationalist movement. That is why we are not ashamed by our own indigenous appellation of Ambazonia, but we embrace it and we push it and will continue to do so. So, ladies and gentlemen, because my computer was attempted to be hacked and our transmission was interrupted, we now have two separate segments. It will be like that. And you can watch it on our YouTube channel, and it will be played. It is played simultaneously on the ACN YouTube as well as the television. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome me into your house in Ground Zero. It is above 2 a.m. Hong Kong time, and I have to go to bed. And we'll keep on engaging our public to account to you and to answer questions and to provide for you all the information as our responsibility to account to you is. I want to thank all those who joined me live on YouTube. Unfortunately, I could not answer questions or pick questions because of the way my computer was being frustrated. So, but we are together. Shake in day. As they talk, follow my way, no road. God bless you. Ciao.